Okay, so it is 12:16 and we can get started. Thank you all for attending on such short notice. As Julia has sent out, this was a opportunity that came to us after our last meeting, and it was something that we didn't necessarily think was something that could be fully talked about at a full council meeting. So we wanted to make sure that we presented it to all of the board of directors as soon as possible. So again, thank you for attending. So we do have two items of business. The first is the grant budget discussion. And so Julia sent out some information on this, but we just kind of wanted to have this to hopefully answer any questions, give any additional information that is needed, and then we will do an email vote on this. Christine Baer from the State's Attorney's Office is also present for our meeting today. For those of you who don't know, Christine is the first assistant in the State's Attorney's Office. Julia and I met with Christine as well to kind of explain what the proposal was and to get the State's Attorney's Office's thoughts on it. So she is here as well for the input. But as Julia sent out, we were approached by the Council on State Governments their proposal was to assist with examining the current functioning of the juvenile system across decision points and identify areas for improvement, as well as any areas that are functioning well. And so Julia sent out the proposed budget the original proposal was for $30,000. However, in regards to our budget, we would now be asking for $29,000 instead of $30,000 if this was passed. She sent out what the scope would be and laid out what this collaboration would entail. Just as some additional information, the Council for State Government, they do work with the they are a technical assistance provider for OJJDP. So that also would potentially set us up to pursue larger grants and as that capacity increases, and with our association with them if we went this direction. Julia, have I hit on everything? I wasn't going to go through the 4 points that Julia sent out. I know that you all have read them, so I don't think I need to belabor those, but wanted to open it up to questions or comments about it. Christine, I don't know if you had anything that you wanted to say in regards to it.
Sure, and then I'm here for questions. As Rochelle was saying, I met with the person who's in charge of this. I read a lot of their, I kind of went on site, and onto their site and did whatever. And I mean, they are basically one of two that the OJJDP uses to do this and kind of go in. And there's these other grant opportunities that are available that if we wanted to apply for those grants, maybe in the future, we'd almost already have a head start with this group who works with helping them implement the grant and doing all of this. This is kind of like doing the legwork to start this out for even future grants and future other opportunities. I mean, it's not like this is just a startup group. They've been vetted on the federal level and everything. Also, seems like a very unique opportunity that we've been presented with. Just to have a system-wide look at everything. I personally like to think that Kane County does a great job. We always seem to be on the forefront of everything. We always seem to be doing this, but we also have this money, and to actually have people who could come in, and not just me saying that we do a great job, but actually other people coming in and saying, yes, you guys are doing a great job. This is what else we can do. Here's some tweaks to even make this a little better. I don't know why we wouldn't take this opportunity. So those are just some of my thoughts. That's all. That's me.
Thank you, Christine. Anybody have questions or comments about it? Need a better understanding of exactly what it would entail?
I'd be happy to hear a little bit more about exactly what it would entail. If somebody can give me a little more information, I'd appreciate it.
Julia, do you want to, you've had more discussions with Stephanie.
Yeah, so I think they're really focused on opportunities for system improvement as a whole. And so, as Christine talked about, there are some grant opportunities out there that take a much more involved approach, and they look at using structures similar to councils, but they refer to them like a task force, basically to implement plans that are developed based on an overall assessment of the system. And so just as Christine was saying, like as a head start to that, we were thinking maybe on a smaller scale, given that we have funding from our Juvenile Justice Council grant that doesn't always get utilized, and we tend to give money back each year, that maybe we could be intentional in using it in the upcoming year to kind of position us to consider those more involved opportunities by doing a little bit of a less involved approach, where as they propose, they're looking at, instead of doing an overall system assessment, just kind of doing some system mapping to see how our different points across the juvenile justice system, the decision points across the juvenile justice system are functioning and working with one another, find where maybe some of those areas of opportunity might land. They have more capacity than what we have currently, with just my role being part-time. So they also have access to experts across the United States and individual or jurisdictions that have been doing some of this work as well, that they can call upon as resources. But as the scope proposes, there's also 2 trainings that would be incorporated for this amount of funding, as well as listening sessions. Again, they're coming in with expertise and background in doing some of this work. So, they have, the research, the policy expertise as well. And then they would put together what they're calling a memo or an action plan for us to focus on key areas. But again, this is probably just scratching the surface with the funding that we're requesting to pursue this opportunity. We could, but it could position us for a more in-depth look in the future should we see that to be fit. Does that help?
And I was going to say, if I could just jump in and just add a little bit. I mean, I think part of it is they're going to come in, they're going to look at what we have, but this isn't like a cookie cutter place, right? I think that when they're going into different jurisdictions and everything, they realize, hey, let's find not just how like our court system works, but how does it work with the whole of Kane County and with some of the surrounding things? How does this all work? What makes us unique? And because of the other resources and other places that they're helping, they're going, oh, hey, there's this other community that looks a lot like yours that's been trying this kind of thing, down in Arkansas, which we would have no idea about, right? But they're able to use some of those resources and give us some contacts. I mean, I think they would be coming in, they're going to be looking at kind of how we do things from beginning to through the end of the sentence, and just kind of looking at how our systems work, and then going, ooh, this works really well. Let's work on this. Let's work on this. What else can we do? Where else can we get other resources? What are the best interests? Are we keeping up with all of that and everything? So it is, I know that they were saying, because I was asking us like, well, what are you going to need? What am I going to have to do? What am I going to have to do with all this? And I said, well, there is going to have to be some like data and stuff. I mean, there might have to be some stats that we either get through the clerk or something just to help them out with that. I know they're going to be talking to each of the different like department kind of things and just kind of getting an assessment of how we're doing this. I think some of it is kind of stat data heavy, and I did have a concern. It's like, okay, what if we don't have all of that kind of information? And they were going, I mean, I don't want to sit and like manually count things, just to get them to do their thing. But it did not say, it's like, no, that's not exactly all that they're doing. I mean, they want to use statistics and everything also, but it's not like, I mean, we're going to have to cooperate with them, and helping them get this thing so they can do the assessments, but it's not like we're doing the work. So.
Would it be
Latanya,
fair to, go ahead.
go ahead, Mike, sorry.
Would it be fair to say that they also like help identify silos and facilitate how to eliminate silos? Because I think we've all agreed for a long time now that once the juvenile gets into the court system, Kane County does a great job, but the whole idea is maybe we've already missed out on the opportunity if the juvenile is referred to court services and in the court system, there's so much happening in Kane County prior to that is not really, would not qualify as the system because everybody's doing their own thing. Different agencies are kind of overlapping, different police departments are doing it different ways. People are maintaining their data differently, so it's hard to collate the data countywide. I mean, I would think that's where we need the most help, is taking our system as it exists and seeing if we can spread the web a little bit and get everybody on in the same system from the start with the initial contact with the juvenile.
I think that's my understanding. What they're I mean, they're not just looking like at us, right? I mean, they're looking at the county and even a little broader, but how it can work for all of it. That was my understanding in talking to her.
I think and to that point, that it can either be across the system, the points, or we had the opportunity, if there was an area where we felt was of particular concern, we can narrow the focus in that way as well. But, given this conversation, it may make sense to keep the broader approach. Sorry, Latanya, I know you've been.
No, I was just going back for, some of the points that I was going to make have already been made, but I think one thing that we should consider is sometimes having somebody from an outside lens, especially when you don't have one of these data administrative heavy grants, which it does not seem that this would be. I can be honest with you that most grants, sometimes I walk away wondering if it was even worth it, because it's more work than what you get out of it. I do not have that concern with this. And I feel as though with the time that we have been a council and been together, this outside view will help refocus us. We started off very strong years ago. Anybody that was on the council for more than 10 years, we had a strategic plan. We were knocking things down. We had identifiable goals. I feel as though in recent months, and I don't think it's anybody's fault, we have hit this kind of stagnant place of spinning our wheels, saying the same thing. We wish we could do. How can we change? And again, we are one of the premier counties across the 102 counties. I would go to my grave saying that, but that does not mean that we do not have opportunities for improvement as well. And sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees because we're in it. So having somebody from an outside national perspective that has worked with statewide systems, that has worked with countywide systems, being able to help us see things from a different lens, and for us to have that opportunity, I don't see how it's anything but a win-win situation.
And to Latanya's point, I think that part of this goes to what we have been discussing for a while now as to whether we need to shake up the council, redo the way that we are doing things. And maybe this falls into that as well for somebody from the outside to take a look. I mean, it seems like we've kind of not been stalling on that, but, trying to figure out what direction do we go, or do we do anything at all with restructuring the council? And, maybe this is sort of a part of that, to look at, to have someone else come in and take a look at what we're doing countywide. Anybody else have questions on it? Comments? Okay. so we are going to do an email vote on it. But again, as I said, we just wanted to have this opportunity to talk about it and give everybody a chance to ask questions, see where they, as they're making a decision as to how they want to vote.
So I guess I have just one follow-up before I go a little bit further with Chief Judge, possibly before the email vote. I think Kane County may be being asked to be a pilot program for duly involved youth as well through the AAOIC. I just want to make sure that no one thinks that there would be any adverse impact on either of these if the county were to be involved in both of those types of programs. The AAOC wouldn't be a grant, it would be a pilot program possibly if we were to be involved with that anymore. I don't know very much about that yet because literally that email came out yesterday and then I was on here. So I don't have a lot of information. I just want to make sure that I would fully understand whether anybody thought there was any implication to either of these things based on the county possibly being involved in that other project.
Judge, if I may, I'm not sure what that AOSC project looks like in detail. I can tell you I was a part of the original work group that talked a lot about how do we better serve dually involved youth across the state. What are some of those gap areas and information? How do we first learn when somebody else's DCF is involved? How do we now respond to that case maybe a little bit differently? Because we know that there are DCFS involved. Based upon those conversations, I would think I would need to learn a little bit more about what an AOIC, what that project looks like. But I know based upon the discussions that we had, it was more about being able to learn sooner about the dually involvement, how to respond thereafter. So to me, I think that would just become part of our system map. And it might even be something that this map would identify is a gap. And it's a gap for all 102 counties that we do not know who's DCFS involved. So we are not responding in the best way to that special demographic. I don't see how there would be a conflict. We would just, have to find out what are the work points of it, but I don't see a conflict as far as philosophy or end goal at all.
Awesome. Thanks. Thank you, LaTanya.
Mike, did you have another question?
No.
I thought you looked like you were going to speak.
No.
Anything else on this one? I'm trying to be cognizant of our time. Okay, well then we will, Julia will send out the email votes and we will go from there. Okay. Christine, you're welcome to stay, but thank you for coming and talking. We are going to move on to our second item of business, which is the email vote report for Maya. I am asking if we can have a motion so we can discuss this.
I'll move.
And a second.
Second.
So we did an email vote and Julia sent out the results of that. And that email vote was to be able to pay Maya or to give her, not to pay her, to give her gift cards for the, as appreciation for the help that she has given us, both with the lunch and learns and previous to that when she came and talked to us and had sit down with some officers. And so we just wanted to acknowledge our, that we were grateful for that. And so the email vote passed. However, after that, we learned, through, as we were getting ready to do this, we learned through the civil department of the state's attorney's office that the state's attorney's office, there is a state statute that they are not allowed to give out gift cards. Our Juvenile Justice Council grant is run through the state's attorney's office. And just so you're aware, this this portion of our budget that is for gift cards has been in there for several years now. Our grant is run by Civil Department. Unfortunately, this was just missed in there. And so it was caught when Julia spoke to them about how it is then we get the money to pay for the gift cards. So Julia has done a lot of work on this to figure out how we can still compensate. And we do have a plan going forward. It would be a stipend that would be given to her through the state's attorney's office. So the amount that we are giving her would not change. She still would get that. She's just going to get a check now or she would be getting a check instead of a gift card. To get to that point, though, to make sure that we are doing everything correctly, we do need to rescind that email vote to compensate her with the gift cards. And then we would be doing a new email vote to compensate her with a stipend. Any questions about that? Okay, hopefully that made sense to everyone. So we do need to take a vote today to rescind our email vote to compensate her with gift cards. So if there is no further discussion, I will move it to a vote. Okay.
I would like to point out how much fun it is to be on boards and deal with matters like this.
Well, I will tell you, Julia and I spent a great deal of time trying to figure out, Julia more than me, trying to figure out the appropriate way to do this. So we should have given you a call, Vern, because you probably would have been a great asset on that.
And I, for one, really appreciate the kind of work and effort that you go through when these little minor things come up as to the way things are supposed to be done.
Well, we wanted to make sure that it was done appropriately. And you know what? Julia gets all the credit for that. I sit and listen and talk it through with her, but we figured it out. Okay, so we can move it to a vote. So all those in favor of rescinding the email vote for student compensation through gift cards, please say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, please say nay. All right, so that has passed, and then, so please be on the lookout. Then there will be 2 email votes, one to further compensate for the student help, and then the second will be for our grant opportunity. And then that is all we had today. Is there anything else that anyone else wanted to talk about? Okay, then I would ask if we could have a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And a second. All right, 12:39, we are done. Thank you so much again, guys. Have a good day.